jẹ́ kí a gbàdúrà. Ọlọ́run ọba alágbára jùlọ, ẹlẹ́dàá àti alákòóso ayé òun ọ̀run, àwa ń bẹ̀ yín wípé kí ẹ wá ṣe amọ̀nà wa kí a bá lè máa rìn ní ọ̀nà òtítọ́ àti àánú sí ara wa. Ẹ wá fún wa ní oore ọ̀fẹ́ yín kí àwa lè máa ṣe gbogbo ohun tí yóò mú ìgbéga, ìṣọ̀kan, ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀, ìdùnnú àti àlékún àìsíkì Nàìjíríà lápapọ̀ àti ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó ní pàápàá. Àmín. Ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ tó pọ̀ jùlọ ètò àmúṣẹ́ṣe ètò ní èdè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì ni wọ́n tẹ ètò àmúṣẹ́ṣe títò ní èdè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì ni wọ́n tẹ ní èdè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì wọ́n dẹ̀ tẹ ní èdè Yorùbá. Èdè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì ni ọ̀lẹ̀ lórí ní iwájú mi. Mr. Ọ̀tún. Kí a ṣe àgbéyẹ̀wò àkọsílẹ̀ àdéhùn tí ó kọjá. 363, 364, 365. A ti ṣe àgbéyẹ̀wò àkọsílẹ̀ ìpàdé tí ó kọjá ní ọjọ́ ajé ọjọ́ kejìdínlọ́gbọ̀n oṣù kẹfà ọdún 2021 a sì fi òǹtẹ̀lù. Iṣẹ́ tí gómìnà fi ránṣẹ́.
Olùdarí ilé ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin, gbogbo ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ ilé ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin, kò sí ìwé kankan láti ọ̀dọ̀ gómìnà.
Àwọn ìfìlọ̀ mìíràn.
Olùdarí, kò sí kankan sà.
Ìwé ìfìwọ́lúwọ̀.
Kò sí sà.
Ọ̀rọ̀ pàjáwìrì ara ẹni, àlàyé ara ẹni, àbọ̀ ìwádìí, ètò ìmúṣẹ́ṣe tòní olórí ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ tó pọ̀ jùlọ.
Olùdarí ilé ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin, mo kí yín pé a káàbọ̀ sórí ètò tòní. Ètò àmúṣẹ́ṣe tòní a ṣe ní èdè Yorùbá rẹ̀ ṣe ní èdè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí a ti mọ̀ pé Yorùbá ni ó jẹ́ àkọ́rí ohun tí a gbọ́dọ̀ lò lénìí. Ṣùgbọ́n ohun tí àwọn nǹkan tí a yàn kalẹ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí ètò àmúṣẹ́ṣe tòní wọ́n jẹ́ àbádòfin tí ó kún púpọ̀. Àti ṣe ó lè jẹ́ ọ̀nà méjì. Àti ṣe ẹ̀dá méjèèjì sí Yorùbá ó fúnni ní ìpèníjà díẹ̀ níwọ̀nba àsìkò tá a ní. Ìdí nìyẹn olùdarí tí mo ṣe fẹ́ tọrọ gáfárà láti dábàá pé ká mú ẹsẹ̀ òfin.
Kí ẹ tó tọrọ gáfárà, a fẹ́ ṣe wá ní kìlọ̀ pé ètò àti máa lo àbá wa kí aṣọ ẹsẹ̀ òfin ó ti ń ṣe lemọ́lemọ́.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Àṣà tí gbogbo àgbáyé bẹ̀ ti mọ̀ wá sí wípé ní ọjọ́ ìní èdè abínibí tí àwa fúnra wa náà dẹ̀ ti polongo ẹ̀. Sọ jẹ́ kí a ṣe àkíyèsí sára kí ohun táwa fúnra wa ti yàn ní ààyò kó má di ohun ìgbàgbé. Nípasẹ̀ ilé ìwé pàtàkì ti ní ọjọ́ Yorùbá, ẹ jẹ́ ká máa gbìyànjú láti rí pé gbogbo ètò tó máa bá dán náà lọ máa ń ṣe ní ọjọ́ yìí.
Ẹ ṣe olùdarí, mo sì ní mo máa rí nídàá kọ́ńkọ́ fún nǹkan tí ẹ sọ yẹn náà ni. Ẹ ṣe àjẹ́ kí nǹkan tí ẹ sọ yẹn kí ó wá sí ìmúṣẹ ní kíákíá. Ẹ forí tèmi yìí jì wá.
Ẹ ṣe tẹ̀síwájú.
Ẹ ṣe. Mo fẹ́ dá lábàá pé ká fi ẹsẹ̀ òfin tí ó kàn pa fún wa láti rí èdè Yorùbá ní ọjọ́ òní tó jẹ́ ìsọ̀rí kejì abala 11 òfin ilé ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin yìí káfíọ́ kí a lè ṣe ètò ìmúṣẹ́ṣe tèmi ní èdè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì kó lè lọ gẹ́rẹ́gẹ́. Ẹ ṣe ìbọdẹ alábàá.
Aṣòfin Ṣókúnlé.
Mo dìde láti kí ẹ̀bá náà lẹ́yìn.
Tí gbogbo wa ló fara mọ́, àwọn tí ò fara mọ́, àwọn tó fara mọ́ ló pọ̀ jùlọ. Olórí ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ tó pọ̀ jùlọ, majority leader.
Olùdarí, mo fẹ́, sorry, Mr. Speaker, items for discussion at plenary today. The first is in respect of a bill to establish the University of Education in Lagos State. I hereby move that a bill for a law to provide for the establishment of the University of Education, Lagos, be read for the second time. I so move.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. As time to come to second motion has moved.
All in favor, say aye. Those against, ayes have it. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker, sir. Distinguished honorable members, it is a great honor to read for the second time a bill for a law to provide for the establishment of the University of Education, Lagos, UNEDLAG, and for connected purposes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members, the bill before us this afternoon is very, very important, is timely, very essential, and it meets the need of the time. Mr. Speaker, gone are those days when requirement for teaching is only teachers' colleges, colleges of education. But today, we have gone beyond that. That education is highly very important. Just like a novelist said, when you have an education, you have the world in your pocket. And before you have the world in your pocket, you must know, you must very abreast with the techniques, the rudimentary methodology of education. This is just gone beyond national certificate of education today. Today, Mr. Speaker, the establishment of Lagos State College of Education will not leave education the way it is today. It will move forward. On the procedures, sir, something interests me seriously is the establishment of pre-degree, the power of the university, the establishment of the pre-degree. This is very, very important. The establishment of pre-degree within the university will allow those who have the lesser qualification to be able to meet up the standards that will allow them to be admitted into the university. Instead of roaming around the streets, this one will absorb them. And that is highly very important, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when this bill is passed to law, it has resolution, that conflict resolution, so comprehensive, right away from the environment of the establishment of the education to the full-fledged. There is provisions in this bill that will resolve the ugly situation which is normally accompanying the university in the country. Being academic, non-academic, administrative, and the rest of it. And Mr. Speaker, there is one important aspect also. There is a provision in this law, or this bill, that gives the university the power to be able to be self-reliant and self-sustaining by being able to act as a consultant to other institutions, whereby they have the power to generate their own that will make them be reliable and be able to carry out the research that is highly very important for the establishment of what we are talking about. Mr. Speaker, not only this, Mr. Speaker, there is one particular aspect, that's page 8. When you open page 8, the privation of persons from obtaining degree. I hope the chairman of education will be able to see this when he is committed to the committee. What does it say? Saying that the university can deprive an individual from obtaining degree and other certificates for a good cause. What is a good cause? We must be very specific on this, because if not, they can just take advantage of that to victimize, to rusticate people from the university. Another aspect, Mr. Speaker, which is highly very important, which is a innovation from the establishment of the university, is the establishment of College of Vocational Studies and Entrepreneurship. This is very important. This aspect will not make you to get certificate alone. You'll be able, when you pass out from the university, you get your certificate, you can also stand on your own to use your hand to produce. Then instead of passing the university and the university will not pass through you, you'll be able to pass the university and the university will be able to pass through you. And when you come out, you'll be highly very productive to the economy of the state. Mr. Speaker, this is a very good bill. I hope my colleagues will be able to give it a speedy consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My highly respected and experienced colleague has spoken so passionately about this bill. I just want to quickly review the intendiments of this bill and what it aims to do. So, the bill will be creating another university in Lagos State, which will also absorb two of the colleges we already have running within the state. And the good thing about this is not only does it upgrade the caliber and the abilities of the institution, it will also give those two colleges more prestige when it comes to educating the manpower of the future in Lagos State. When we look at the composition of the councils, and we also have something called a Senate in this bill, and this is specifically because of the grand scope of the university. Now, the Senate will have less administrative duties within the institution and more a regulatory, authoritative appeal to the school, where they will make the final decisions. They will ensure that everything that's happening in the school, including the statutes, they will actually create the statutes, and they would compose as members of the council as well before the council is even hired into the institution. So it's very important we look closely at the Senate and the composition of the Senate and their powers in this bill, sir. We also find that with the powers of the university, majority of their powers are actually just regulatory. It's similar to many of the institutional laws that we have today that govern our schools and colleges. The only aspects that I think we need to look very closely at are the same as my very experienced colleague has mentioned, which is the powers of the provost to punish for a good cause. We need to ensure we know what that good cause is and what those good causes will mean for the institutions. I was actually worried seeing it written in the text of the law. I thought that would be better suited for a regulation or the schedule, but that is something we can look at when it gets committed to the committee. The bill also gives serious room for academic growth and research. As previously stated, we need growth within the state. We need growth of our manpower. And our previous bills or previous laws have given space for development, but not for educational research development. And this is a new aspect that will ensure that not only the theoretical aspect of education is being developed, but also the practical with all of the students that will be engaging, hopefully, when this bill becomes law. Now, the functions of the council, sir. There was some issues reading the law as it was structured. I believe that the functions of the council being in clause 8 should be a bit later. I believe the composition and the functions of the Senate should come beforehand, because as I stated earlier, the Senate make up a large body, make up the largest body and the most authoritative body in the institution, and therefore should be created first before the creation of the entire council as a whole. However, the council, while they regulate salaries, they do regulate salaries within the institution, they also regulate it with the conjunction of the Senate. I also believe that they should be very careful with that aspect because, as we know, the governor is the chief executive of the state and we should not be giving sole powers of salaries to the institution. We should also find a way to be conferring with the governor within that text there. Quickly go to the repeal of the law, sir. So, as I mentioned earlier, they'll be absorbing 2 of our technical colleges in the state, and very clearly the law needs to explain why. And it also repeals the 2 laws that we created for those colleges, empowering them. There's also clauses in this law, sir, that talks about all the business dealings, all the properties, all the movable, immovable objects that are currently owned by those 2 institutions will immediately, the law has been signed, or this bill has been signed into law, immediately be transitioned into those institutions, therefore making those laws null and void. And I think this particular bill will not only stand the test of time, it will be a wonderful legacy that I think all of us, the 40 members in this house, should be very happy to be involved in. It's something that will not only give LSHA, pardon my French, a kick in the backside to do better. Even though we know LSHA is one of the best performing schools in Africa at the moment, we know we can always do better in Lagos State. And with this particular law, sir, I think it will give LSHA some competition so that we'll have a better face or facets to our educational system in Lagos State. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, right, Honorable Speaker, for this great opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I think this bill is a long overdue. Lagos State as a mega city, Lagos State of 21st century, this development needs quality education to succeed. Mr. Speaker, I think we can only achieve this by establishing University of Education. And we should also consider the existing College of Education, like Adeniran College of Education, which was established in 1958. I think a child that was born in 1958 should be 63 years old today. We need to be promoted. Mr. Speaker, Adeniran College of Education has what it takes to become a University of Education. Their landmark is about 108 acres of land. Among their lecturers, they can power of over 35 PhD holder that is competent and special in some areas. I think with this college should be upgraded. Mr. Speaker, Rivers State College of Education was established in 1974. Now it was upgraded to University of Education. Also, Kara Ekiti, University of Education now upgraded to University of Education. And Adeniran College of Education is older than this College of Education. And it's no longer a story, Mr. Speaker. Adeniran College of Education affiliated with University of Ekiti and produced over 25,000 degree holders. And today their certificate is Ekiti State University, which Lagos State is supposed to be the claimer of the pride. I want to appeal to all our colleagues to support this bill to make sure that it sees the light of the day. Thank you.
How do you know the number of hectares in area? I hope you are not attempting to go and Honorable Tom.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, my distinguished colleague. Well, we want to appreciate this bill coming at this particular time and to affirm that that's one of the good things that this government can do to the people of Lagos State, knowing fully that education is so key to human capital development of this state. And we all know that the normal public education that we all attended, at least most of us, when compared to private universities and private schools these days, students don't want to go to public school. But if this school is established, surely we'll be able to provide and churn out quality teachers that will be able to impact positively on the life of the pupils. Then, secondly, like my brother said, Honorable Ajani, the Mokopel, Michael Otola College of Education and College of Education in Jamiki, Abamade Soya College of Education, if they can upgrade them and they'll be awarding degrees. And as we know that in Nigeria today, certificate is so important. So even if you spend 20 years in university or in College of Education, you don't have a certificate, you don't have a degree, you will be treated as a subservient. This has helped us so much. Then we look at the objective, we look at the function of the university, and we see that what is in there is in tandem with what is practicable in other universities. But there's one area that I want us to, I don't know, is if possible, the appointment of principal officers as provided for in the first schedule, page 13. The registrar, the bursar, and the librarian. In my own opinion, these people are career officers, and they grow over time in their choosing career. So if they were given a political appointment, that means once they serve for a single term of 4 years or 5 years, they move back. So that means the junior one will move and start heading that department. So if for over 2, 3, 4 terms, they are still in the school, they are not retired, that means even a level 9 officer will end up becoming the chief librarian, while the chief librarian remain in the office as a officer. I don't know the intendment of that. So that is what is applicable in the area of bursar, they are applicable in the area of registrar. So I feel these people are professional and career officers. Once they rise to their peak of their profession, they should allow them to do theirs and leave, so that those coming behind them will assume that position. So since the position is not a political office holding, that is one side. Secondly, the area of the power of the visitors on page 13, that is the section, page 17, section 13. I think that power seems to be a bit weedy. When the visitors, if there's any problem in the Senate, the decision of the visitor is the final. So they will check the visitors. If the visitor then is the one that instigates problem within the council or the institution, we check the visitors. I feel this place should be looked into, that even if the visitor is going to take a final decision, they should allow others, the members of the parliament, who are the true representatives of the people, to at least have a say before a final decision is taken. That's just my minimal contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. I also stand before you this afternoon to align myself with the bill to establish the Lagos State University of Education. Mr. Speaker, without any display of emotion or sentiments, I'm able to say that this bill is long overdue, and the most sensible thing to do is for us to allow for the passage into law for the establishment of the institution in earnest. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have checked and perused the bill to establish, or if you like to transmute, Obusoya College of Education and Michael Otodola College of Primary Education into a university. I have not found anything missing or wrong in the bill, except for little just to dot the T's and to dot the I's and cross the T's. I have observed in the bill that in the interpretation clause, some things are missing there. I want to believe that congregation and convocation should be on the interpretation clause, because to a layman, we hardly know what a congregation is except if you're an academic. So, and also conspicuously missing in the bill is disclosure of interest clause. The clause that establishes disclosure of interest is absent. We can look at that very well. Having said this, Mr. Speaker, fellow colleagues, I want to say that the idea of College of Education by the founders in 1958 to establish grade 2, grade 3 teacher training colleges, which metamorphosed into College of Education, where that awards NCE is not a bad idea in itself. But nowadays, it has become untrending because the society has seen NCE certificate holders as reject. As a society for you. And what doing at all is what doing well? What is the benefit of going to school, carrying a certificate, and useless? Even in the economic space, if you are to engage an NCE holder in your school, we pay crumbs to our teachers. But if we will allow this bill to be passed into law, then the issue of professionalism comes in. People see university as citadel of learning, and once that is done, the society that sees NCE holders as reject would not have issue about professionalism. Again, Mr. Speaker, this studies have shown that graduates of College of Education are societal rejects and third-rated even in the economic space. For instance, in the JAMB cut-off marks, admission into colleges of education is the lowest. That in itself portrays the university, the colleges of education graduates as lowly rated. Just recently, the last admission conducted by College of Education, only but 18 applicants choose acquired as their first choice. And the state government is incurring costs on personnel and what have you, only to graduate 18 students. So it is better for us now to transfer it into a university, full-blown university. We must also ask ourselves, how many notable Nigerians would allow their children to attend College of Education? How many? So that goes to show that we have issues. And coming up with a University of Education will help the matter. I recently settled score with a friend whom I advised to allow his son to go to acquired because he was not able to make a LSHA. So he saw that as something else. And it was just recently settled the matter. Mr. Speaker, the justification for turning these colleges of education into university as follows. It will generate employment, no doubt. It will provide access to state university education, as LSHA couldn't cope with the pressure. By the last admission, 35,000 students apply to go to LSHA. Only about 3,500 were admitted. So that presupposes that very many of Lagosians have to traverse southwestern states to seek for education. But with the creation of another university, we will be able to absorb them and have a lot of manpower in Lagos. Mr. President, I also want to allude to the fact that...
Please, one bit up, please.
Well, Lagos State being a mega city, Mr. Speaker, and with the potential of hitting, with the population rate of 23 million or thereabout, and with the potential of hitting 30 million in the next 9 years, would need a university of this nature, university of this nature, in order that we can be able to absorb all students that are yearning for quality education. I therefore want to enjoin my colleagues to allow this bill.
Honorable Secretary.
Pass. Thank you.
The right honorable speaker, I want to thank you for allowing me to express my view on this particular bill. This bill is very, very apt. I remember during the first term of the late Latin Jakari, when he was the governor of Lagos State. That was the period he established Lagos State University. And that university was just, the population of Lagos was less than 10 million when that university was established. So today we are overdue for another university. So it's a very commendable effort by this administration to think of establishing another university. We are even talking of education. Lagos State has the highest number of primary and secondary schools in Nigeria because of our population. But we don't have enough teachers. So we don't have enough trained teachers. So establishing this university is a very good step in the right direction. And but I want to comment on Article 2 on Plenary 7 that has to do with the governing council, which is a very good, article. But the area that interests me most is the section 1E. That has to do with, it says 5 other members appointed, as the members of the governing board, appointed by the governor to represent various interests from the 5 appropriate divisions of the state. That is a very good provision that represents the fact that every division of the state will be represented, which have only been canvassing. Then on page 28, sir, Article 41, on page 28, Article 21, that has to do with admission policy. That feature just mentioned, and it says admission can be subject to such minimum condition as the council and senate stipulate. Sir, I want this to be in the law if you consider it fit, sir, for us to provide, especially for people of Lagos State, at least the admission should be such that the intake should be between 60 to 70% of the students should be populated by people living in Lagosians. And when you go to paragraph 44 on page 29, it mentions that for the implementation of funds, local governments in the state shall contribute 2% of their financial allocation to tertiary institutions. That means each local government in Lagos State already, it's going to contribute a minimum of 2% to the sustenance of this school. So I have the opinion that there are several Lagosians that are looking for admission in other places in the country. So this particular one is going to be funded by Lagosian, by Lagos State, which have sugar provision for it. Thank you very much for your attention, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues. Without having to repeat what my colleagues have said, I also agree that merging two colleges of education to form a university is an efficient way
of using resources of the state. As we all know, NCE is no longer popular. Determine the popularity of it from how whether people get employment from going to study or graduating NCE. Lagos State government, even in the large recruitment of teachers, we didn't take NCE. We only insisted on university degree. So this is creating this university. Lagos State is trying to let the gown jive with the town, as we say, so that there will be further attraction for people to study education. That said, I would like to mention that whichever committee looks at it, there's some duplications. This bill may not be, it may not be possible to look at it in isolation. We need to refer to the existing university law, which is the last law, because I saw something here, section 3 of this bill, which says form an apex of education system of the state. And I know in the last law the same thing is there, form the apex of university system in the state. So we need to look at that. As a matter of fact, I also believe that there should be a template to form these universities. Since we already have a running university, I mean, my colleagues are mentioning here sections that the Senate is now whether properly constituted or not. We already have a university. And I know we're also looking at another university, so we'll have 3 universities basically. So we should have a proper template so that everything, there won't be overlap and things are consistent as we use them across the university. In conclusion, I say this is a welcome idea. It will increase access to education. It will also increase quality of education because more people will be attracted to going to university to earn a degree in education and go to our schools to teach. We know the secondary school is a fulcrum of educational development in any state, and every nation or state develops as far as the educational system is developed. So I think it's a welcome and we should give it support. Thank you.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I am perhaps the happiest person in this chamber today because I'm a product of the Lagos State College of Education, where I read biology chemistry, and the certificate of which I used for 5 years to teach biology chemistry in some secondary schools in the state. Since after my graduation from the school, there have been concerted effort with some other alumni members canvassing for this. So this coming to fruition is a very good thing. And I will try as much as possible not to express sentiment in addressing this issue, because if I express sentiment, it's justified. Mr. Speaker, I wish to say that this law follows the template of establishing a university, particularly that of Lagos State. I have juxtaposed the provisions of this law, this provision with that of the LSHA, and I discovered that it follows the template appropriately, except for some deviations, and the deviations necessitated by the current institutions. We have the 2 institutions, the College of the Adenoxia College of Education and the Michael Todola College of Education, where this law, this bill attempts to repeal the laws that created the 2 institutions, but in an attempt to do justice, provides for transition provisions where everything that is currently going on in the 2 institutions are preserved. The students currently undergoing study in the school, the program and the certificates are preserved, and as long as the staff and other infrastructure also. Mr. Speaker, part of the good provisions in this bill is the fact that the welfare of the students and the lecturers are taken care of with the provision of accommodation policy, the accommodation policy of the university, where it said that as soon as practicable, the welfare in clause 42, that as soon as practicable, the staff of the school will be provided with accommodation, and also make the university also a residential one as soon as practicable, to be determined by the governing council. Mr. Speaker, the miscellaneous provision, the accommodation policy, the savings and transitional provisions make it very good to take care of those things that will necessarily be good for the transition of the institution into a standard of university. Mr. Speaker, some people have canvassed it. Why will College of Education Lagos State, as in Akkoyd or Makoped, be affiliated to university outside Lagos, and the certificate will be bearing University of so university outside Lagos? Lagos State has the power and the capacity to have as many universities as it has. And Mr. Speaker, the Faculty of Education in LSHA will have to buckle up now that there is healthy rivalry between the faculty and that of the University of Education. Mr. Speaker, I wish to say that this university will be the apex institution in terms of education, research and training as far as it's concerned. I remember that in the 7th Assembly, Honorable from Badagry 1, I forgot his name now. Honorable Afosel raised the issue of LSHA being escalated to the status of a university. I'm sure he will also be happy. Mr. Speaker, this is a very good bill, and it shows that Lagos State is forward looking, as most colleges of education are now being upgraded to the university level. We started with Teachers Grade 2 certificates, and at the time Teachers Grade 2 certificates is no more fashionable in our educational system. We upgraded it to NCE. Now if you have NCE and you have an applicant for Lagos State job for your schools, NCE, and you have education graduates in education, a graduate in degree in education, they will prefer that degree in education than NCE. So NCE is gradually being fashioned, going out of fashion. So this will accommodate it, and people will have more confidence to go into University of Education rather than going into College of Education. Mr. Speaker, it's a very good bill, and I'm sure that it will have difficulty with the support of our members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Director Honorable Speaker. Total support of the bill, and most of the contradictions or some of the things that I had an intention of raising has been totally helped by the majority leader. But I have one other very important one in respect of the page 18, the clause 18 subsection sub clause 2 that speaks in respect of the retirement age. It was stated there that the provision of any law requiring retirement of public servant after serving for 35 years shall not apply to academic staff of the university. Truly, the more you get old, the more experience you become. But there is a chance for someone to start lecturing at the age of 26 or 27. So it means if we continue to teach until it is 70 years. So I want whichever the committee that is going to handle it to look into that. Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. Honorable Layode Maslu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. It's true, at times when you even send you needed to a letter to me at home in the office, I thought when I'm reading Laiwola and Layode, maybe your handwriting at times. I also kept the letter with me. There was one that did not say, this letter is not for you. I said, what? This one I'm seeing. When I came, Mr. Speaker, I'm the owner of it, but I now look it properly and I said, you are writing Laiwola. So, sorry, they call Layode or sorry. So, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Actually,
let me also join my colleagues, particularly Honorable S.O.B. Agunbiade, our majority leader. Actually, the ages are getting today, I think they will be above 50 today. I mean, presently now, that 7th Assembly, I was the person who raised the motion on the issue of this particularly bill. So what really happened that time, Mr. Speaker said we should step it down, that we should go and sit down and look properly, that we shouldn't come out with a motion for such a serious law within the school. So I think today I'm also the happiest person here today that I'm still in the House of Assembly and seeing this bill to come to the daylight. So Mr. Speaker, so far my majority leader have said it all, but I also want to join my colleagues also to add one or two things to it. Mr. Speaker, if this bill be coming into law, I think the Lagos State in particular, we are going to have what we are seeing today as a problem within the state. We see most of our schools, they find it difficult to employ some of our graduates to become a teacher because most of them were not studied the education aspect of the teaching within the methodology system they are using in the school today. So if this bill has been coming into law, Mr. Speaker, we are going to have enough teachers within the private and our public school in the state. Also, today we are going to have what we call 21st century professional teachers, that they can deliver a classroom institutional and modern technology and methodologies within our school. Also, Mr. Speaker, and my colleagues are also finding it that when I also going to some research within my level of study, I am finding it that Finland today, they are saying they are having 100% literacy level within their country. I'm now going so far, now looking to it as if that most of their universities are producing the teachers that they are undergoing a serious training within their own educational system. I think if Lagos State government also were having this university, I think we can achieve what the Finland are now claiming today. Mr. Speaker and my colleagues, let me also go into section 39 of this bill, where my majority leader have mentioned something like that. What is going to happen here? Like the ACOPEC today, they are going to have their like section 39 ACOPEC. So section 39(2)(f), College of Special and Early Childhood Education. It is what they are having presently in the ACOPEC. So today, if this one has been coming into law, that ACOPEC, they are still going to have what they will call a college on their own. Not, they are using departments. Like even in College of Education, Akoi today, when we are going there, we are going to see science department, or we call it science department, social sciences. But today, when this one has been coming into law, they are going to have a kind of a college within the university. Also, Mr. Speaker, I also congratulate and I'm happy with most of the lecturers in the Adeniran Ogunsoya College of Education and the ACOPEC. If you go to the section 40, most of these the lecturers in the College of Education, when they have been given, the section 40 talk of the affiliated campuses, the majority have said it, where the Adeniran Ogunsoya College of Education now using another certificate from Ondo, and thousands of our people there studying within the system, and they are using their own name. I think today Lagos State government also, we are going to be affiliated with the schools are coming to affiliated with us. On the section 47, section 47 is on the leave of absence for the lecturers in the campuses in Makopek and the College of Education, most of these lecturers giving the leave of absence to go and study, do more research on that. Most of them, when they now travel, they find it difficult to come back. Like some of them doing the doctorate, going to their professorship, they now say coming back with the professorship or doctorate to come and teach the NC certificate. Some of them will travel and then coming back to the campuses again. I think they will be happy when they are seeing this law to becoming, this becoming into law, and they also will also have enough opportunity going there for the research and coming back to come and exhibit what they have been able to go and get outside the country. So Mr. Speaker and my colleague, I also support this bill, and Mr. Speaker should give us the opportunity that we should quickly come into the final conclusion so that we enjoy the university status within the Accord and the Makopek in the Lagos State. Thank you so much, sir.
University of Education Lagos Bill 2021 is hereby committed to ask Committee on Education and Tertiary to report back in 2 weeks. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, it is my pleasure to move that a bill for a law to provide for the establishment of the Lagos State University of Science and Technology be read for the second time. I so move.
Honorable Saeed.
Right, Honorable Speaker, sir, I stand to second the motion as moved by the
All in favor say aye. Those against no. Ayes have it. Mr. Plan.
Thank you, right, Honorable Speaker, sir. Distinguished honorable members, this outcome of the read for the second time is for the law to provide for the establishment of the Lagos State University of Science and Technology to make provision for its powers, functions, and general administration and for financial purposes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm just going to briefly summarize what I've read in this law because it's very similar to the University of Lagos law that we just read. Firstly, Mr. Speaker, science and technology education in Lagos State is the education of the future, at least the education for the next 50 years until the human race develops something else more beneficial to us than science and technology is currently. Like I said, there's a lot of similarities to the law we just read. We have the section that talks about the visitor as well. I believe my very valiant colleague mentioned that. And the visitor, if we look at the law very well, the bill very well, the visitor is actually the governor of the state, and he is aimed to visit the institution once every 2 years. What we can see that resonates most vaguely in this law, most prominently, is the wish for them to create a better human resource development track that will directly impact the state and state resources. We see that they actually have clauses within the law that says this law will create an avenue for the institution to create workers directly for the state, and I think this is a very, very important part of this bill, sir. If we look at what has been happening around the world, the UAE, for instance, they have a space program that they started 10 years ago because they saw that as the future. China, almost 20 years ago, they started robotics programs and robotics institutions all over their country, also with the same, thinking in the same vein of thinking of the development of their people for the future, sir. I believe Honorable Section G also mentioned this earlier about the previous law, which is that 2% of local government allocation is supposed to go to the financing the other school, but this particular law doesn't have that clause in it, which makes me wonder how they intend to finance it, but that is by the way for now. it also intends to absorb LSHA, the institution, and take it under its own institution or its own powers, and also create new education and new courses of practice within those institutions. They also give the transitional period too, in which let's say, for instance, this law is signed within the next 2 months. Any students who are still on course of study within LSHA will not be affected, neither will the governing council of those institutions while those people are still educated. So it will ensure that those people receive their certificates before any new institution comes on board to govern their lifestyles or to govern how their certificate is collected or their educational process is also undergone. The only thing that gives me a small cause for concern, sir, is the 70-30 ratio that's been stipulated in the law. I believe if that is a Lagos State, if that's a thing that Lagos State wish to do, then it should be in the regulations or it should be in the statutes rather than stipulating it as a law, because 20, 30, 40 years from now, it is not absolutely guaranteed that we will see 70% of our population interested in science and technology education, just not to limit the capabilities of the institution to fill itself to capacity each and every year. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. This is a very good one at this time, because we all know today that education is a very big business, and that if Lagos State is coming out with a university of science and technology, then we are in for a good business. Like we all know, year in, year out, we spend, if not billions in dollars, asking our children to go to Canada, United States, and every other advanced country to study sciences. And I think this will, to a very large extent, help to conserve our foreign resource, our foreign exchange in this country, and of course even bringing money to us in Lagos State from other countries, because I know Lagos State is always known to always champion because of everything that is very good. Like Honorable Olabi said, I'm looking to another 5, 6, 10 years down the line that Lagos State is going to champion the cause of Nigeria to the space through this science and technology university. Also, I see very much in the future that we are about to develop another Silicon Valley, likened to that one we have in California, United States of America, in Lagos, because I look clearly at the objective of this university. That is what it intended to do, and exactly that is what we are going to get from it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill to create the Lagos State University of Science and Technology is a good one, and Chairman House Committee on Education Tertiary Institution has spoken passionately about some sections in the bill, and he has alluded to the fact that they are actually upgrading LSHA to be a university. That's a polytechnic, as section 62 of the bill says. And I think this is a very good one, because ONDs and HNDs are like really become a thing of the past, because people, they are not so employable in the labor market. They don't want to really employ people like that. So upgrading it for them to have bachelor's degree and all is actually a very good one. And if we also look at it, that we have the same body, that's the Joint Admission Matriculation Board, that conducts the entrance exam for both polytechnics and universities. So why are we now letting them go to get ONDs or HNDs? So I feel that this is a very good one, because it's even the same exam that they'll do. It's not like back-ended to polyjam and jam, but now it's just one exam. So I think it is pointless. However, I also see that with this bill, what LSHA could not do, the university will be able to do, in the sense that they'll be able to offer other degrees apart from first degree, like the master's degree and what have you. And what that will end up doing is that it's going to provide employment in the area of academia. Because LSHA, they probably have enough PhD holders and all that right now to be able to take students for postgraduate studies. So in this regard, it is a very good one. Then lastly, what I want to mention is also about, in the objectives of the law, it is stated that the university would offer other courses apart from technology-inclined courses, like drama and fine arts, management studies and all that. And in our flagship university in Lagos State, I'm sure they offer those courses already. It is not so much of a problem, it's just that it should create a healthy rivalry with LSHA and probably the University of Education also. So in that regard, it's not a bad thing, but what is the intendment of it not just being a specialized university for us to do technology inclined stuff and vocational studies, as is said in the objective also in section 8, to vocational and science education, which maybe we should look at sticking to that. But it is not a bad thing if they want to offer other courses. They should let us, we need to see in the regulations, when they're doing the regulations, we need to see the courses and the departments they want to create and the faculties. It is very important. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. I thank you, my colleagues. Mr. Speaker, the bill is overdue, and it's a very good bill, which I'm also in total support of the bill. But one of the merit of it is that discrimination of certificate precisely at the civil service levels is annoying. When somebody qualifies at HND, spending 6 years in polytechnic, and at the end of it, they place him on level 7, and he sat for the ICANN was unqualified. Now that everything will be built on university, I think is very good, very, very good, and I'm going to support it. The second point is that, Mr. Speaker, if you look at page section 30, self-financial year, that is going to be fixed by the council, and the polytechnic and the university is going to be financed by the state, then they should be in line with the state budget. It should be within the first January of every school year to the 31st December of that particular year. No council should fix that, but that one should be fixed. And the second side is section 31, stated that the estimate of income and expenditure with the accounting standard is now statement of financial performance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, the right honorable speaker and my colleagues. The bill before us is a bill that is welcoming, that is very important, because from all what my colleagues have all said, we know that University of Technology, or Lagos State University of Technology, is long overdue. Are we talking about the population in Lagos or the existence of Lagos itself? But we don't need to forget the fact that University of Technology is a specialized institution. And in the light of that, I will want us to look deeply into the objectives of this institution. We know research is paramount and it is best carried out in universities. But in the course of this, as a specialized institution, courses like legal studies, humanities, I don't think they are really part of their curriculum. In other words, I want us to define their mandate. We have to know what exactly they stand to do, because we know that skill acquisition, which is lacking in our educational curriculum, is coming to stay now, because education without skill acquisition is like next to nothing. In that wise, we will not be able to perform like others. So I will implore that there is a defined courses to be undertaken in this particular university. Courses like legal, like they are not really part of it, because it is mainly to safeguard military technologies and other scientific undertakings. So I will enjoy my colleagues to please let us give this bill a consideration and a speed passage, so that at the end of the day, Lagos will not only maintain its mega city status, but at least it will be comprehensive in whatever we do. Thank you very much, sir.
Honorable Jude. Good afternoon, my speaker, my colleagues, good afternoon, all of you. I also want to add my voice to the good nature of this bill to turn the University of Science and Technology, which is, for me also has been longly overdue for a state like Lagos to have. However, sir, I noted the positive aspect my colleagues have mentioned, so I don't need to repeat those things again. But I need to just point a few negativity I have seen, which I want the committee maybe to look at it when they are considering it. First of all, when you look at the visitor on this, who is a visitor on this particular bill, was not defined in interpretation aspect schedule. So please, I want them to look at it. Then so if you go to the objectives of the university, page 9, item 5, page 9, item 5 here, it's talking about borrowing by the university. This borrowing, I don't see where it's subjected to the House of Assembly for confirmation and approval. So they should look at it. It's too open. Then when we also go to page 10, so the visitor of the university, here is talking about the visitor should visit at least once, no more than once in 5 years. It's mentioned 5 years here, not 2 years, as said by Honorable Ulabi. It's 5 years here, so please, if it's an error, it can be corrected. The other one we read initially is talking about 2 years. But here it's stated 5 years, and I think it's too long for the governor to do that, sir. Then when you go to page 38, where the first schedule for appointment of principal officers, we discovered that all, even the chancellors, the chancellor and the chairman of the council, vice chancellor, none of them are subjected to the confirmation of this house. If it's an omission, please, I want them to look at it and do the needful. Thank you. God bless.
No, sorry.
Thank
Thank you, Right Honorable Speakers and distinguished colleagues. I think I will not be here without lending my voice to the creation or establishment of the University of Science and Technology in Lagos State. Because if our founding fathers, Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, was not of the opinion to establish LSHA as a university, we would have had the opportunity of taking a vantage position of having a university that is rated as one of the best in Africa and the best in Nigeria as a state-run university. I think this house is coming up with a very good bill that is germane and apt according to what all my distinguished colleagues have said earlier on, in the sense that science and technology play a vital role in human's life, in the sense that the consolidation of cultural competencies and improved quality of life of the people depends on how far their science and technology have been able to go. And if you look at what is happening around the world now, I don't see the reason why Lagos State Polytechnic, that has courses in humanity, in social sciences, and has relatively small departments in engineering, will now have to be pushed up to the full-fledged science and technology university at this present in time. We have challenges in medicine, we have challenges in pharmaceutical industry, we have challenges in technology, we have challenges in environment. This is a specialized university as the culture all over the world, where specialized brain will come with new ideas, with professional skill, with research and development that will push the state to a position whereby we have solved most of our security issues with the use of drones developed by our engineers. I think going through LSHA and having to diverge a little bit. We all know London School of Economics, it has no science department. It is strictly a school on its own. In as much as the bill is good, I want us to look at the benefit of having a University of Science and Technology in our state. Secondly, do you know that the recent unrest that we witnessed by most of our active youth was the cause that most of them are university graduates that graduated from university but have not got the entrepreneurial skill, according to what one of our honorable have said here. If we have a specialized university that is responsible for entrepreneurial skill coupled with a degree certificate that will make them employable, I think most of these people will have been more beneficial in the area of IT, which is an in thing in the world now. So I'm not of the opinion that a part of the university that already has its courses should now be made to run science courses. A science should be a science because there are some international grants, there are some international donors that will come. The way and manners in which a university is run with the act that establish university all over the world, it is that you have professional skill. You must have certain number of professors, you must have certain number of researchers, you must have certain numbers of resident people that visit, we call them you have certain numbers of doctors, colleges. So how did they intend within a very short time of 2 years as stipulated by this bill, how will they be able to conceptualize most of these things and let Lagos State enjoy the benefit of having a viral University of Science and Technology that will be beneficial to our immediate need? Look at it, for example, we have environmental issues. We need people, young people, to come and clear this area in terms of research. We have issues of employment. So please, I'm of the opinion that the university in Lagos State is right, and it's high time that we have a specialized university like what we are debating. But I'm totally out of the opinion that a university, a known college of polytechnic that has been known for performing various functions should now be made to start performing that role. That is where I want to stand, to be different. And I believe that it will create employment, it will increase. And one more thing, have we really asked ourselves, why is it that thank you very much, sir. I think I propose a school of basic study for the science of university so that people that have deficiency in their whole level will be able to be trained adequately before they qualify for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, a lot has been said. I just want to bring something to our attention. In as much as technology is the way forward all over the world, and this will be a very good addition to our achievements in Lagos State. But sir, on page 33, number 52, accommodation policy, sir, I'm trying to look at the future and see we can avoid some troubles from the beginning. It says, A, the university shall provide accommodation for its staff as far as practicable. Knowing what we know about our schools, this will cause problems because if in 5 years people stood up to say, look, the VC doesn't like me, that's why he's not giving me accommodation. We can have free accommodations for maybe visiting lecturers, visiting, or somebody just came into the university. But I don't think that should be something we put in our law. That's number one, sir. It says an home ownership scheme and operate the housing loan scheme for its staff as may be practicable. But the last one, which is number 2, a residential policy for students, I think they should be a priority. It's a school and it should be a priority. All over the world, what most universities try to do is to make sure that all freshers, all incoming students are given accommodation. Then after the year, if we go to year 2, if it's still available, you will get one, but if it's not. But I think we need to look at that section so that in the near future, there won't be crisis of lecturers coming up to say, look, you must give me accommodation. Or this is if practicable, but when that time comes, if practicable can be defined in so many ways. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
South Africa, sorry, I thought you were referring to Honorable Okola Osone. Thank you very much. I want to join my colleagues in saying that this bill deserves to go to the next round. That is you assigning it, Mr. Speaker, to the appropriate committee for the deliberation, because also I must also disclose that I was a student of LSHA was Lagos State College of Science and Technology in those days, and I did my A-level science, physics, chemistry, mathematics at the Ikosi campus in those days. And I remember that in those days there was a riot, and the riot basically was on the registration of Korean of the engineers being shown out by Lagos State College of Science and Technology then, and they will not be after graduation. They won't be registered by Korean. The NSC, the Nigeria Society of Engineers, was not in existence then, so it was a great problem. It was a terrible one, and I still think that it still persists until these days. And by simply upgrading the Polytechnic now to university, I think the problem can be avoided. Also, getting higher degree, either MSc, PhD, and so on and so forth, can only add value to Lagos State. It is now, we are now sure that high caliber engineers, technicians, what have you, that will shape the future of Lagos and Nigeria will be produced by this university, and it will also complement whatever LSHA is churning out from the engineering faculty that they have. And people have talked about management. Is it appropriate for it to be in University of Science and Technology? I can say vividly that management has always been part of LSHA since it was created, and they have also added value. You also should know that some management is also science. It is now science, serious science. For me, I stand to support this bill. My support for it is unalloyed, total, and I hope that it will go to the next stage. I'm sure that the I's and T's can be crossed by the committee. I trust the committee to do a good job to make the bill more elegant and to be
useful to the state. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate you telling me once again. Sir, this is the best thing that can happen to Lagos State when I talk about education. That's my humble view. Because establishing a special, education like the one we are having is very good for the development of Lagos State. And it's long overdue. Thank God we are having it now. These sciences are lacking to be in this state because we don't have enough engineers, and we don't have enough of science, practitioners in this state. So establishing this university is a wonderful development. But I want to agree with my colleagues that mentioned humanities in university. Why do we have to go to that extent? We call it University of Science and Technology, and we are lacking in sciences. But these are the areas we are deficient in. So we should emphasize the core, value of this institution that we have created and we are about to create. Now, on the government of the boss, it is not well spelled out in the bill. The company membership, especially we're talking of membership of the board, unlike the education, University of Education we have just treated. In this particular one, the membership of the board are not well spread out. So we like each of the governing council rather. We need to spread out so that we can have clear understanding who are the members. And I want to take the opportunity to also recommend the issue or the point that was raised in the previous bill that has to do with representing people from different divisions of the state as presented there. Now, also, it has to do with the vocational training. Sir, we lack that in this country as a whole. To the extent that after your degree, people cannot do, especially even like a practical person like an engineer, you come out, if you don't work somewhere, you cannot practice your profession. So vocational training is lacking, and we recognize that one is being emphasized in this bill, which is very good for the university. So I really want to commend this bill that it is in the interest of the state and for the development of the state. And like I said, I saw on page 13, paragraph 4. I went to the schools in that area. We are talking of, without limiting the population of section 3 of this section, the council subject to the provision of this law shall have the following portion, that is, what is amendment or revocation of status pursuant to the provision of this law. I hope they are not trying to make provision for themselves to make law or to amend any section of this law. Thank you, sir. Lastly,
thank you, Mr. Speaker, for not allowing this opportunity to elude me. Mr. Speaker, there are 3 key values that this bill promotes. And for that 3 core value, I think it's enough for us to pass this bill into law. The first, Mr. Speaker, is the promotion of indigenous technologies. We can modernize it, develop it to relate to the socio-cultural value of our society. It's highly very important, Mr. Speaker. We have these technologies in our place which have not been developed to our own value. It's highly very important that this bill, when passed to law, will make the university to go into research and make sure that these our method are developed to the standard that all other world will come to us to copy, like we are copying from other places now. The second aspect, Mr. Speaker, is that the university also should carry out true teaching and researches. The appreciation of African culture. We are very rich in culture. If we can harmonize our own culture to the world, and know what really happened to Cuba. The Cuba today promote their culture, and that is why you see America, as powerful as Americans are, they cannot subdue the Cuba, and they are now going there for tourism kind of holidays. So also, this bill, when passed to law, will be able to enact this. Third aspect, Mr. Speaker, is that there must be an interest. That is what the objective, that the interest of the school must be on agriculture, which is very, very important. We cannot feed ourselves, and a country that cannot feed itself is an empty country. You cannot feed yourself, then you will not think about productivity or the production. Raw material, we are in the food crisis today. We go to the market, we know what the price of the tomatoes and the rest of it in the country today. But interest in agriculture will elevate the suffering of the people of this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Lagos State University of Science and Technology Bill 2021 is hereby committed to House Committee on Education Tertiary to report back in 2 weeks. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, that is about all listed for today's session. And having come to the end of the other paper, I wish to move that the House adjourns till Monday, the 4th day. Thank you, my colleagues. Mr. Speaker, the purpose for which the Yoruba language specified for today was suspended had been accomplished. I wish to move that the other and the rule earlier suspended be resuscitated. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I like to support the motion as moved. All in favor say aye. Those against no ayes have it. Majority Leader.
Olùdarí, lẹ́yìn àṣeyọrí tí a ti ṣe lórí àwọn nǹkan tí a gbé kalẹ̀ fún ètò tòní, mo fẹ́ gbà ní àbá wípé ká mú ìjókòó wá sí ìpamọ́ títí di ọjọ́ Monday, ọjọ́ Ajé ní ọjọ́ 4 oṣù July tí a wà nínú
ọjọ́ 4 àbájọ́ kan.
ọjọ́ 4 Monday.
ọjọ́ 1.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I open to the wrong page on the calendar. Ẹ̀dáríjì mi olùdarí, àwọn ẹlẹ́gbẹ́ mi ló kó sí mi ní inú tí mo fi ṣí ojúwe sí oṣù tó yàtọ̀. Mo dá lábàá pé kí a mú ìpàdé wá sí ìpamọ́ títí di ọjọ́ 5 oṣù keje oṣù tí a wà ní ti jẹ́ oṣù July ní agogo 12 ọ̀sán. Mo dá lábàá.
Ẹ ṣe ìdarí nìyí láti kí àwọn náà lẹ́sẹ̀.
Pé gbogbo àwọn fara mọ́, àwọn tó fara mọ́ ló pọ̀ jùlọ. A sún ìjókòó lé síwájú títí di ọjọ́ Ajé ọjọ́ 5 oṣù keje ọdún 2021 ní dédé aago 12 gbogbo ìrasọ.